You're listening to Retro Reels, a show that looks back on films from time gone by and recalls the various events, trends, and perspectives that informed their creation. I'm your host, Hanna, here to guide you through a trip to the past via the silver screen. This week, armed with all of the knowledge I now have about Geisha, I decided to go ahead and watch the 2005 film Memoirs of a Geisha for the program, just so I can talk about how bad and how wrong it really is. I also went ahead and read the novel by Arthur Golden, upon which the film was based, so I'll get around to that. Let's just start with a rundown of the plot. This is a pretty long story that covers a period of time in Japan before, during, and after World War II through the eyes of Chiyo, a girl from some podunk fishing village who is sold into a geisha house in Kyoto's Gion district and manages to become one of the most celebrated geisha of her time. After their mother falls gravely ill and their father decides he can't be bothered with them anymore, Chiyo and her sister Satsu are spirited away to the pleasure district of Kyoto. Satsu, deemed not pretty enough to be a geisha, ends up in a brothel, while Chiyo is sent to the Nita Okiya, or geisha boarding house. There, she comes under the care of Mother, whose decisions are primarily governed by what will make her the most money, and she meets Hatsumomo, a cruel and jealous senior geisha who is immediately jealous of and threatened by Chiyo. Hatsumomo's near-constant abuse of Chiyo and efforts to sabotage her cause Chiyo to rack up a debt to the Okiya. When she falls off the roof trying to escape one night, Mother officially considers her a sunk cost and cuts her geisha training short, relegating her to a servant role. To make matters worse, Chiyo receives word that her parents have died, and she ends up having a bit of a pity party out on a bridge in Kyoto, crying openly about her circumstances, which, to be fair, are pretty bleak. A man known as the chairman comes across her and, seeing how upset she is, gives her his hanky and buys her a shaved ice, allowing her to keep the change. She decides at that moment that somehow, some way, she must become a geisha, so that she might get a chance at meeting nice men like him. Her wish comes true when she is approached by Mameha, a successful and widely respected geisha and rival of Hatsumomo's. Mameha strikes a deal with Mother and takes Chiyo, now renamed Sayuri, on as her maiko, or geisha in training. Hatsumomo and Sayuri's former friend at the Okiya, Pumpkin, who is now a maiko under Hatsumomo, do their best to make life as a maiko difficult for Sayuri. But in the end, Sayuri's singular beauty and skill with dancing attracts many patrons, and she pays off her debt with Mother and then some when she gets a record bid for her mizuage, or deflowering ceremony, which is the last rite standing between her and official geisha status. Mother realizes just how much money she stands to make through Sayuri and names her the heir to the Okiya, enraging Hatsumomo. When Hatsumomo finally snaps and tries to burn down the Okiya, she is turned out into the street, and that's the end of her. At this point in the story, World War II begins. Sayuri is forced to leave Kyoto and works in a kimono factory to get through this period of time. After the war, she returns to the Okiya, and with help from the chairman's associate, Nobu, she attempts to rebuild her life as a geisha. However, she must navigate complex emotions, loyalties, and betrayals as she becomes entangled in the business and romantic affairs of Nobu and the chairman. At the end of the movie, the chairman reveals he was the one who put Mameha up to taking her on as a maiko all along, and that he has loved her from afar for years but kept his distance because he knew Nobu was so affectionate towards her. And I guess that all just goes out the window and they live happily ever after, or something. The film follows the book pretty faithfully, although there are a few noteworthy differences. Probably the biggest one is the way the character of Nobu is treated. In the novel, he's a war hero and a self-made man who is distinctive among all the other male characters in the story for being the only one who doesn't really care to participate in the commodification of geisha, and only does so because his coworker and friend, the chairman, and other members of the business elite entertain themselves by visiting geisha tea houses. He goes along because it's basically an obligatory part of his job. Similar to how today's Japanese salaryman is expected to go out with his boss and drink after work. Unlike all her other potential patrons, Nobu's affection for Sayuri is not primarily sexual in nature. It's supposed to be understood that he likes her for her personality, although to be honest, that's not particularly convincing because just based on the way she's written, she really doesn't have much of a personality to speak of. In the movie, the chairman also appears on a regular basis, but in the novel, he barely appears until towards the end. For much of the story, he is only present via the handkerchief he gave Sayuri on the bridge that day, and in Sayuri's mind. She's always thinking about him. In fact, she's pretty much singularly motivated by her obsession with the chairman. At every moment that she needs to remember what she's doing it all for, whether she's dancing or entertaining someone she'd rather not entertain or otherwise suffering, she thinks of the chairman. It seems to me almost like some kind of insanity, but she probably is kind of insane considering how traumatizing her childhood was, and that's just what she has to do to get by. To be very honest, though, there are not many critiques I can make fairly, nor do I have the desire to make them because it feels like such a huge waste of time. You just can't expect much from the movie, considering the quality of the source material was nothing to write home about to begin with. The book, written in 1997, is an Orientalist mess from beginning to end, and to top it all off, it's horribly written. Even ignoring the dubious content and willful misrepresentation of Japanese culture, the characters are largely flat and one-dimensional, and the writing is... Okay, you know those stupid jokes that make fun of Confucian wisdom and Chinese syntax? For example, Confucius say, "Man who stand on toilet, high on pot." I am not kidding you when I say the entire book reads like one long Confucius say joke. If you go on the book review website Goodreads and look up the review with the largest number of likes from the community, you will come across a user named Sophia who kindly listed out a large number of examples of this kind of writing found in the book. I'll read a few for you from her list. I felt as sore as a rock must feel when the waterfall has pounded on it all day long. My mind, on the eve of my debut, was like a garden in which the flowers have only begun to poke their faces up through the soil. You can kind of see what he's doing here, right? Borrowing these cliché sort of Japanese-y nature images that you might see depicted in paintings or embroidery to construct similes. It gets more egregious, more Orientalist. For example, like the crisp skin of a grilled fish, like a shrine and the gate that stands before it. I was like a temple bell that resonates long after it has been struck. Are you getting it? Are you hating it? Because I hated it. Left a 1-star review on my Goodreads account. Do not recommend.
I got your picture of me and you. You wrote I love you. I wrote me too. I see and stare at it, there's nothing else to do. Oh, it's in color. Your hair is brown. Your eyes are hazel and soft as clouds. I often kiss you when there's no one else around. I got your picture, I got your picture. I'd like a million of you all around myself. I want a doctor to take a picture so I can look at you from inside as well. You got me turning up and turning down, I'm turning in, I'm turning right, I'm turning Japanese. I think I'm turning Japanese, I really think so. Turning Japanese, I think I'm turning Japanese, I really think so. No sex, no drugs, no wine, no women, no fun, no sin, no you, no wonder it's dark. Everyone around me is a total stranger. Everyone avoids me like a cyclone ranger. Everyone.
But that's enough about the book. Let's talk about some of the things wrong with this movie, starting with the casting. 3 ethnically Chinese actresses played the main geisha in the movie: Zhang Ziyi, Michelle Yeoh, and Gong Li, all of whom I've seen in previous movies watched for the program. Specifically, I saw the first 2 in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which I also hated, and I saw Gong Li in Farewell, My Concubine, which I did not hate but felt a bit conflicted about. I'm looking forward to the day I see a movie therein that I actually like, but this is evidently not that day. Here's the thing. Now, of course I know these actresses are Chinese to begin with. It's not like I can erase that knowledge from my mind. But I also don't have to know that they're Chinese to at least be able to see that they aren't Japanese, because I've lived in and traveled around East Asia for a long time. And despite the jokes people may make that all Asian people look the same, physically speaking, there absolutely 100% is a clear difference in appearance between Chinese, Korean, and Japanese people. Taiwanese people too, for that matter. I can always spot my own kind. All of this is to say, if I can tell the difference, other people can too. I can tell these women are not Japanese, and it is about as jarring to me seeing them done up in the style of a geisha as it would be to see, say, someone Western European done up in that style. It just looks weird. It looks wrong. This isn't something you would expect your average Anglophone audience member to pick up on, especially back in 2005, but in China, you can bet that people were angry. Just yesterday, we commemorated the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II, during which the Japanese committed atrocities that simply don't get as much play in Western discourse as the Nazis' Holocaust did. Rape of Nanjing, Unit 731, Comfort Women, Bataan Death March. The list goes on, and they deny or downplay it to this day. It comes up time and time again, and likely always will. Even after the last living victims finally pass on, I have no doubt that people will continue to advocate for them. So, casting Chinese women as geisha went over understandably badly with China, so much so that they canceled the film's release. The Japanese, for their part, were also offended by the casting of Chinese actresses in the 3 main roles. But that's just it, isn't it? This movie was never meant for Chinese or Japanese audiences. It was meant for Western audiences. And what Western audiences wanted was to see a stylish and exotic love story. So that's what they got. That's only the tip of the iceberg, though. Let me reiterate, geisha were not and are not prostitutes. There were probably a few, sure, who might have muddied the waters, but that doesn't change the fact that geisha were fundamentally different from courtesans, called oiran, and that they've always offered a different kind of entertainment than a prostitute does. The geisha's job is to be well-versed in singing, dancing, the playing of the shamisen, and other Japanese arts and traditional rituals, such as the tea ceremony. They must also be great company, fun to drink with, chat with, and play games with. My impression is they don't even have to be especially pretty. It's more important that they are talented, charismatic, and can provide the kind of atmosphere and experience that their clients are looking for. And that leads me to the biggest crime Memoirs of a Geisha committed, the depiction of mizuage as a deflowering ceremony. Mizuage means hoisting from water and refers to the coming-of-age/graduation ceremony that girls working in the pleasure district underwent to mark the end of their time as an apprentice. Mizuage has long been connected with a maiko's loss of virginity because some maiko did experience it as such. Their virginity was sold to the highest bidder, just as depicted in Memoirs of a Geisha. But this was not a universal practice among geisha, and nowadays mizuage is never sexual in nature, only symbolic. So the author's choice to depict mizuage this way, as if that were typical of this rite, is really the cherry on top of an overall distasteful approach to telling the geisha's story. It feels less like an admonishment, a genuine criticism of the objectification and transactional nature of being a geisha, and more like an opportunity to gawk at and further dehumanize them. My impression is that for Arthur Golden, and by extension, director of the movie Rob Marshall, geisha are treated as not much more than a curious zoo exhibit. Thankfully, this mizuage, this rape, basically, of the main character, was pretty understated in the movie, glossed over in a matter of a few scenes. In the book, it was deeply disturbing, and I'd rather forget I ever read it. Actually, that about sums up how I feel about the whole story. I wish I'd never watched Memoirs of a Geisha. That's all I have for you guys today. I'm Hanna Belinsky. Thank you for tuning in to Retro Reels, and I hope you'll join me again next time on another look back on the way things were.